So today, everybody's favorite king of scream, Howard Dean, apparently had a little slippage of the tongue. Uh, he was doing an interview, and I'm not sure if it was an interview with Lou Dobbs, or I know that it was at least featured on Lou Dobbs, and as well as Hannity and Combs, but he was talking about the benefits, I suppose, of belonging to the Democratic Party for African Americans as opposed to the Republican Party, and the advancements that they can make within the Democratic Party. And he first he said he cited African Americans, and then almost as an afterthought he thought, I guess, I better throw in women as well, because he did. And so he looked at those two groups and, what certain, people within those two groups have done within the Democratic Party. And then he said, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was like, compared to the the Republican Party. And so, he was, I guess, calling the Republican Party the quote-unquote white party. I'm not even going to get into whether or not that can be there's an argument for a valid claim to be made there. There are prominent African American and women Republicans who've done well for themselves, but the majority, I'm sure, are white. But then the majority of the Democratic Party is white too, just because they're the majority. But of course, in making that sort of slip, the white party, it then raises the question, well, what does he mean? Does he mean the Democratic Party is now the quote unquote black party? And in the climate we're in, with the racial tension so high in this election, and trying to win over those rural whites that they desperately need. Is this the kind of quote he really needs to be making right now? I mean, if anything is going to push them over to the vote for Republican, I think it's statements like that. And this kind of feeds into something that's sort of been on my mind quite a bit recently. The question that sort of, in the tradition of Nancy Kerrigan, the why of it all, why would the DNC put through arguably the worst candidate to ever run in the Democratic Party, if not period, in any party, when there was a perfectly fine, viable candidate as an alternative, several of them as an alternative? I mean, when you think about it, it makes absolutely no sense why they would do this. I don't have time, obviously, to get into all of it in this little video. I'm going to have links to the side with some articles that sort of looks into the why aspect of it. And there's so many different whys, I believe. There's like a why that pertains to each of the individual people that are really at the head of this, Dean, Pelosi, Brazil, and the rest of them. They each, I believe, have their own goal, which is separate from the others, but they've formed this unholy union to achieve those goals. But it's, they don't have each other's interests at heart any more than they have the normal peons like you and me at heart. But it's sort of that alliance where they have knives at each other's backs. I'm sure they don't trust one another, but they're in this together for their own benefit. And so, just tying this in with what Dean said about possibly meaning that the Democratic Party is now the black party, clearly we know that Donna Brazil has said that these are her words, she wants to remake the Democratic Party, even if she has to destroy it first. And there have been plenty of articles about this, about, her new coalition in this party is strictly going to be African Americans and I suppose the few whites that are willing to help that cause. But there was also contention between African Americans and the gay and lesbian community for control of it, I guess. I mean, well, not control, but their share of the pie or power, whatever. I didn't know this was out there until I started reading articles about it, but apparently there's this power struggle going on underneath, which I think most people don't know was out there, but I guess the gay and lesbian community is fighting for their civil rights, and there were a lot of African Americans in the party that didn't want them to be included in the civil rights movement or portion of the party because that would minimalize their share. It's a power struggle thing. And so I guess Donna and the people like her want to kick them out and take as much of the power for themselves as they can. And she wants, I guess, strictly a black party, if she can get it. Clearly, Dean and Pelosi wouldn't have any interest in seeing that happen unless that helps them in some way. And my feeling that the why for them is, that up until Newt Gingrich's coup in 1994, I believe it was, where they got control of the Senate, the Democratic Party had control, I think, for a solid 40 years. After that, they lost it, and they've been trying to get it back ever since. I think they've tried everything they can think of, but I guess the latest attempt is, in order to get control, they have to have the majority of the seats. And the only way I guess they figure they can do that is by winning seats in states they never had contested before, which is the South. And of course, to be viable in the South, they're not going to get Southern whites who tend to vote for the Republican, so they have to get the Southern blacks to the polls, and they do this by the promise of the first black president. I really truly believe, they would, if they can get him in to have a puppet in the White House, they would do it. But I don't believe is their ultimate goal. Their goal is to use him to get as many blacks to the polls to vote the down-ticket Democrats in. They want back control of that Senate because that is a stable power. If you get control, you can have control possibly for another 40 years. But the White House changes hands, pretty much every at least 12 years, if not 8 years. So I think that's what they want out of this. And I have no doubt that they would screw over Donna Brazil and her ideas of dominating this party the minute it no longer served their purpose, just like I believe that they would have no intention of trying to offer black Americans who they are using to get what they want anything other than a false promise. Like I said, if they could get him in there where they could have a puppet, they would take it, but that's not the ultimate goal. Obama, of course, it's all about him, so I think he's more than happy to be the tool as long as he gets the glory, which he's definitely relishing in that as much as anybody could humanly, do. And of course, the super delegates and the sort of the party leaders who have their hands out for that money he's shoveling in, that's their purpose. And then there's another player by the name of Leah Daughtry, who is sort of the woman behind the man. She works for Dean and is apparently running the entire show as far as the Democratic convention. And I'll have a link to a blog with more information on her. But apparently she is tied up in this black liberation theology, and it seems like, part of what she's after is this reparations that they want to give to black people, or at least themselves. And it's really, I think there are just layers upon layers and all this stuff. But again, they each have their own goal. which is separate from the other, and none of them have, whatever interests they have, none of them have the country's best interest at heart. But if you want to find out more, check out the links that I have, and let me know what you think.